WWE legend Mick Foley showed up on Pawn Stars to authenticate his own mask and t-shirt. In a surprising yet fascinating crossover between professional wrestling and American pop culture television, WWE Hall of Famer Mick Foley made a special appearance on the hit History Channel show Pawn Stars. Known for his larger-than-life persona in the ring, especially as the bloodied, hardcore icon Cactus Jack Foley stepped outside the squared circle and into the world-famous gold and silver pawn shop in Las Vegas. The occasion? To authenticate a piece of wrestling history, his iconic mask and t-shirt. The episode, which aired to much fanfare among both wrestling enthusiasts and Pawn Stars loyalists, was a unique blend of nostalgia, memorabilia collecting, and educational storytelling. It showcased how sports memorabilia has become a serious collector's market and how figures like Foley have transcended their original industries to become cultural icons. Pawn Stars, now in its 18th season, is known for bringing in experts from various fields to assess the value and authenticity of rare and unusual items brought in by customers. From vintage cars to celebrity autographs, the show has covered just about everything under the sun. But having a living legend like Mick Foley appear to verify personal memorabilia was a rare and exciting moment. The item in question was an old, worn t-shirt paired with a face mask that bore the unmistakable markings of Foley's Cactus Jack persona. The seller, a longtime wrestling fan, claimed the items were from the early 1990s, right around the time Foley was making waves in Extreme Championship Wrestling and World Championship Wrestling. With no paperwork or direct proof of provenance, authentication was going to be tricky. Mick Foley is not just any wrestler, he's a storyteller, author, actor, and one of the most beloved figures in wrestling history. With a career spanning over 3 decades, he's best known for his roles as Cactus Jack, Mankind, and Dude Love in WWE, but his influence stretches far beyond the ring. He's written several best-selling books, appeared on talk shows, and even guest-starred on sitcoms. But perhaps more than anything, Foley is remembered for his willingness to take brutal punishment in the name of entertainment. Whether it was being thrown off a roof through a table or enduring countless chair shots to the head, Foley became synonymous with the hardcore style of wrestling that took off in the late 1990s. So when he walked into the pawn shop, donning a modern-day version of his signature flannel shirt and beard, it was like seeing a character come to life, not just from wrestling history, but from the collective memory of millions of fans. As the camera panned across the counter, the mask and shirt sat side by side. The shirt was faded, the fabric worn thin in places. The mask had clearly seen action scratches, dents and discoloration told the story of a man who had taken some serious beatings while wearing it. Foley picked up the mask first. Holding it carefully, he examined the stitching, the paint job, and the general wear and tear. He then launched into a detailed explanation of how these masks were made during that era. This, he said, pointing to the eye holes, is handmade. Back then, we didn't have fancy molds or custom-fitted gear. We'd get a cheap hockey mask, drill out the eyes, paint it ourselves, maybe add some duct tape to reinforce it. He then moved on to the shirt. I wore shirts like this every night, he said, holding it up. They were usually black, sometimes red. I'd write Cactus Jack on them with marker before each match. You can see some writing hurt, it's faded, but you can still make it out. The pawn shop team listened intently as Foley described the evolution of his look from underground ECW shows to WCW pay-per-views and eventually WWE. He even recalls specific matches where he might have worn the shirt or used the mask, giving the item a real sense of historical context. Rick Harrison, the veteran pawnbroker and show host, asked Foley what kind of value such an item might hold today. Well, if it's authentic, it could easily go for $5,000 to $10,000 at auction, Foley replied. If there's documentation or a photo of me wearing it in a match, that number goes up. If it's just a mask and shirt with no provenance, though it's hard to say. This led to a broader discussion about the memorabilia market. Chumley, Rick's longtime associate, chimed in with a question about why people collect such bizarre things. It's about connection, Foley explained. People don't just want a piece of history, they want something tangible that reminds them of a moment they felt something. Whether it was watching me fall off a cage or reading my book, they want that link to the person behind the mask. One of the most touching moments came when Foley was asked what it meant to him personally to see his old gear being treated like a museum artifact. "I started out doing backyard wrestling for fun," he said with a smile. "I never thought anyone would care about the clothes I wore or the mask I got hit with. But seeing this stuff now, it's humbling. It makes me realize that what I did mattered to people." He paused, looking down at the mask again. "There's blood in this thing," he added with a laugh. Literally, that's part of what gives it value because it tells a story. The pawn shop crew exchanged glances. Even after years of handling everything from Civil War relics to signed Beatles albums, this moment had a different kind of weight. For many fans tuning in, seeing Foley in this setting was surreal. He's always been larger than life, a figure of chaos and heart, often seen screaming in pain or hugging children in hospital rooms. Seeing him calmly explain the intricacies of wrestling memorabilia to a group of pawnbrokers was oddly humanizing. It also served as a reminder that legends age, evolve, and find new ways to connect with their audiences. Foley, now in his late 50s, has long since retired from in-ring competition, but he remains active in the wrestling community, appearing at conventions, commentating, and continuing to write. After Foley's inspection, the pawn shop team deliberated. While they acknowledged the historical significance of the items, they admitted the lack of documentation made it difficult to offer top dollar. "We'll give you $2,500, Rick said. "That's fair based on what we know. If you ever find more proof, you could sell it for more somewhere else." The seller agreed, visibly excited to be walking away with a check for an object he once thought was just clutter in his attic. Foley's appearance on Pawn Stars highlights a growing trend: the mainstream recognition of wrestling as a legitimate cultural force. Once dismissed as mere entertainment for kids, wrestling is now being studied academically, collected seriously, and appreciated as a form of performance art. By bringing a piece of that world into a widely watched show like Pawn Stars, Foley helped bridge the gap between niche fandom and mass media. He reminded viewers that behind every mask and shirt is a person with a story, and sometimes those stories are worth thousands of dollars. More importantly, he reminded us all why we fell in love with wrestling in the first place, because it was real in the way that mattered most. Not real in the sense of actual combat, but real in emotion, in sacrifice, and in the power to move people. Mick Foley's appearance on Pawn Stars was more than just a quirky TV moment. It was a celebration of resilience, reinvention, and the lasting impact of a true entertainer. Whether you're a lifelong wrestling fan or just someone who enjoys a good story, Foley's journey from backyard brawls to national television is nothing short of inspiring. As the episode closed, Foley stood outside the pawn shop, waving to the camera and flashing his signature grin. He may no longer need the mask to protect himself from hair shots, but the memories and the legacy are still very much intact.